Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alistair Plimmer and I'm the chair of the South Wairarapa District Licensing Committee. Welcome to this sitting of the South Wairarapa District Licensing Committee. To my right, I've got Craig Boyer, and to my left, Catherine Rossiter-Stead, and we make up the committee today. I'll just go through a bit of health and safety for the room. The emergency exits for this room are the door you came in, down the back, and an exit behind me. If we need to evacuate the building, please use one of the exits and assemble outside by the playground. Please remain in the assembly area until the building has been confirmed clear. In the event that we experience, which I'm highly unlikely to experience, any unruly or intimidating behaviour during the course of this hearing, we will adjourn until it's safe for everybody to continue. I'm not expecting that to occur. Members of the council and the committee staff will congregate in the area behind me and the rest out the front. Today we are, the other person I'd like to introduce is our Po Māori, Nerita Hooper, who is here to observe proceedings today, because under the new rules, we have to have some Māori protocols added into it. So Nerita is here to observe and to come up and develop protocols that would be appropriate for our hearings going forward. And I do know that other members of licensing committees are watching this and probably going through the same processes as we're going to be going through. So welcome, Nerita. Today we are here into hearing an application for an on-licence by Courtney Spices Limited. We need to determine whether the application for the renewal of that licence meet the objectives under the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012. This hearing is an inquiry to ensure, as required by the Act, that the community input into alcohol licensing is received. Section 201 of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act requires that this hearing be treated as a commission of inquiry under the Commissions of Inquiry Act 1908. This hearing is not a meeting or a discussion. All matters go through the chair and the proceedings are similar to a court of law, but the proceedings are not as formal. Okay, so we'll try and make it as informal as possible because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everybody is heard. Please bear in mind that unlike a court of law, it is not an adversarial hearing. It is inquisitive and evaluative. And please, when presenting evidence and from the board, the tone is respectful and calm. And unlike a court, Section 2071 of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act allows the DLC to hear matters which might be considered to be hearsay, anecdotal, or opinion. Okay, do you understand what that means? Okay. I will guide everybody through the hearing as we progress. And look, time is not an issue, so we'll take it as slowly as we need to get everybody heard. All parties and witnesses, when giving evidence, can give evidence under oath. You don't have to, but the rules of evidence will apply, which means if you give evidence under oath, the weighting of that evidence is higher than if you just make a statement. Do you understand that? Okay. The applicant in this case is Courtney Spices Limited, known as the Village Cafe, situated at 6 Kitchener Street, Martinborough. Courtney Spices is owned by Vivek and Patrick Kumar. So, thank you. And both are here today. For the inspector is Mia Wilton, who is the Chief Alcohol Inspector for South Wairarapa District Council. The police and the medical officer of health are not represented because there are no objections. And I'd like to acknowledge members of the community who are here, so welcome. Before we get into hearing any submissions, are there any issues that you would like to raise, any procedural issues or pre-hearing matters that you need raised? No? Okay. Are there any members in the audience that are interested parties and seek standing in this hearing? No? Okay, thank you. So how we're going to run it today, the run sheet, effectively we're going to hear an opening submission and your evidence from the applicant. Then the Chief Licensing Officer will be able to present their evidence. You will have then a right of reply to their evidence, okay? And we'll give you a period of time to gather your thoughts from what you've heard from them. And then we'll move into closing submissions and statements. The Chief Licensing Officer will go first, which gives you the opportunity to be the last statement and last closing statement in the hearing. As I've said, evidence does not need to be given on oath, but the laws of evidence will apply if you don't. The submissions that you have submitted, you can take it as read. We've read all the information that has been provided to us. It's really important that when you give evidence, we don't want you to read your submissions. What we would like to hear from you is for you to highlight the key points within your submissions that you want us to take into account, okay? In particular, addressing the issues that the inspector will raise in their submissions, okay? For the Chief Licensing Officer, you've presented a whole lot of case law in your submissions. It's really important for us that you highlight the particular parts of that case law that you feel are applicable to this application, specifically how they relate to your objection to this, okay? Really important. In terms of questioning, there is no cross-examination here, okay? However, the panel are entitled to ask questions of clarification and to delve into a bit deeper. So if you say something, we have the right to question your evidence on both sides, but there is no cross-examination between you. So it's really important then that as one side or the other gives their evidence, that you take notes so that in your right of reply, you're able to cover those points that you wish us to take note of. This meeting is being recorded for the purposes of witness statements so that they can be transcribed, because your evidence will form part of the written response to this matter. It's really important there is only one person speaking at a time. Our microphones are okay, they're not state of the art, so please speak loudly and clearly when you give evidence down the front there. Following hearing everybody's evidence and closing submissions, the hearing will adjourn to enable the panel to deliberate on your submissions. No decisions will be provided today, and you will get an answer back from the panel in writing within 14 working days. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, so we'll make a start then. I'd like to take this chair and make your opening statements and then highlight any evidence that you have for us.
Can we just
For the record, could you introduce yourself before?
my name is Vivek Bhatt, and I'm the director of the Courtney Spices Limited. We used to own the 3 places, 2 in Wellington and 1 in Martinborough. He's Pratik Kumar Patel. He is the second shareholder of the company. We have applied on license application to the South Wairarapa district on 8th of March 2024 when we take over this business. And we applied for the temporary authority as well. So we've been granted the temporary authority, and we were waiting for the full-on license. But as for the inspector, inspected the site, interviewers, there were some few problems, like we admit our mistakes as well, and some certain situations occur during that time. After completing the first temporary authority, we have applied for the second temporary authority as well, and that also has been granted. But we are still waiting for the full-on license, and we are here to discuss for that. And as the questions and the concerns raised by the inspector about the suitability of the applicant, the adequate staff, training, rosters. So we have now complied with all the concerns raised by the inspector, that the 2 staff cannot be at the same time in both of the places. One point I would like to tell you that we have sold 1 branch in Wellington. So we have now enough duty managers on the floor to run both the places. Yep, that's all now.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, everything is covered in it. So pretty much that's
Okay. You got any questions?
Or what's just been.
Yep. Or any of the questions you've got of the evidence that and the written submissions they've made?
Yes. Morning. Could you provide a little bit more information around your current operations, particularly around your staff arrangements? What staff arrangements do you currently have?
So we now own only the Rajdhani Indian Restaurant in Pitani and the Village Cafe in Martinborough. We have 7 duty managers on the floor. So Ulrich, Pratik and Kinjal is working at the cafe as rostered, and Sandeep, Kalpesh, Amit and Pratik is working in the Pitani, and the Janvi has been interviewed by the Hud City Council for the duty manager, and she's waiting for her manager certificate.
Yep.
So no crossing of the staff. One is working here, 2 more working in the Pitani, or one is working in the Pitani, 2 more working here.
So just to drill down a little bit about your arrangements, how does it work for the Village Cafe? How, in what way does the staff roster work to ensure that there's a duty manager on every time? And how many staff are working under the duty manager at any given time?
So on Monday, Aldrich is working. Our operating hour is Sunday to Thursday is 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So Aldrich is working on Monday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with 2 staffs under him. On Tuesday, Pratik is working same time, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with 2 staff under him. Again, Wednesday, Aldrich is rostered. Thursday, Pratik is rostered. And on during busy days, on Friday and Saturday, we open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we have 2 duty managers, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 1 duty manager from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Roster on Friday and Saturday.
And how many staff do you have working on the Saturday?
Saturday, we have 2 casual part-timers, 1 barista and 2 chefs.
Barista also takes money over through the cash. It serves customers, or is just working on.
Just working on barista. So we ensure that now in the busy flow, in the busy time, we have 2 duty managers on the floor.
Sorry, just going to take some notes.
Yep.
Just one more question. So can you describe a little bit more about the clientele that pass through the cafe throughout the week? And does the clientele change from, say, Monday through to Sunday? The types of clientele, the types of customers that come and visit your premises?
Yep. So most of the time we only focus to sales. Most of the sales are with the coffees and the food. During the weekend, few our guests want some glass of wines and that. That's only the reason we make sure that we have 2 duty managers on the floor, because we have the outdoor seating as well, indoor seating, combining with 140 seats.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just a couple of questions here. You mentioned 7 duty managers. How many of those currently live in the Wairarapa?
Wairarapa, Aldrich is living. He lives locally, and Pratik and Kinjal lives in the Avalon.
So,
Rest 4, they are belongs to the Pitani branch, so they live over there. Yeah.
just to clarify that, one of them lives in the Wairarapa.
Yep.
My other question here is, in when we have a phone, You were issued with an infringement notice on the 22nd of August by the police with the right of appeal. Are you looking to appeal this?
No.
I've just got a couple of questions. Your application for the hours is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Okay. Your duty roster only has on Monday coverage to, well, every day except Saturday
Friday and Saturday.
Friday. No, oh, sorry, it's Friday. Yes, Friday or Saturday. So you don't have enough coverage to cover the term of your license. So what's to stop you after 3 o'clock on Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday staying open and serving alcohol from 3 till 8 as your license would allow you to do? You don't have duty manager coverage for those hours.
It's not like that. It's just because of the nature of the business. What we expect, rather than spending 3 to 8, having only 3 or 4 guests, spending more money towards the staff, electricity and the gas, what we are thinking to cover only to the busiest days, what we can do.
Okay, with that in mind then, given that you've applied for your hours from 8 to 8, would you have any objection for the hours to be changed to reflect what you've submitted in your duty roster?
That's okay. Like in winter time, we carry consideration that would the business of the Martinborough would end by 3 or 3:30. There are many places as well. They are opening in the evenings as well. So we don't have any plans to open in the winters, but yes, we do have a plans to open in the summers to go with the long hours. And we have some staffs like we got new staff joining from next week. His name is Vasu Kandoi. We're expecting Melanie and Vasu to apply for the duty manager, and they both live locally here. So we will cover few hours in the summers, expecting that the business will go up during the weekdays from starting 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. Taking that on board, given that they don't currently have a manager's certificate or a certificate to serve alcohol, would you find an objection to a reduction in your license hours until they are qualified, and then when you provide evidence to extend your hours?
Yeah, we can go with that.
So you would be flexible in that regard?
Yeah.
As winter is really quiet for much snows in Martinborough, right? So we don't mind with it. As long as what we have decided, all new joiners have to be cross-trained, has to be manager certificate, or at least we can get more managers on the floor when we are busy. So if we are reducing our roster hours on during the days, what we are close on 3 o'clock, let me fine. We don't mind with it. If we get more managed certificates, yeah, we can ask get more opening hours on weekdays.
Yeah, because that would then be a variance to your license that you would then apply for a variance to your time of license. Okay. And the reason I ask those questions is because when I do the sums on your roster that you put into your submission, sorry, my eyes not very good. Pratik is currently rostered for 44 hours between the two cafes, restaurants, and that doesn't include travel time. So I note that you were going to provide an employment. Is it he or she? I'm not sure. The employment agreement, because right now you've got 44 hours rostered time, let alone travel time, which is also part of an employment agreement, I presume, traveling between the two locations.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So the reason is, as a business person, we have to think all the sides as well. If we hire more managers and quiet time, of course we need to pay if business is going or not, so if cafe was not generate, to be honest, cafe was not generating that much revenue that we can get hire more managers to cover 20 or 30 hours. So what we have decided with the mutual understanding that, okay, we try to cover this up during such a time when it will be open for more, like we getting more business, then we'll get one or two more managers on the board. So it will cover everything that at least we can pay, so that's the reason. Was it? There was nothing like we don't want to, we want to harm ourselves. There was nothing like that. Just pretty simple to cover and to make sure that expense is what we are expenses doing in business. At least we can give the salary, on quiet time, it was really tough to get it out from it. So there was a reason.
Okay. Thank you. Got any, any thoughts?
Good at the moment, yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, spoken. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Can you, would you like your evidence to be given under oath, or are you happy to make?
My submissions aren't including any evidence, only the submissions in relation to the relevant case law and a summary of the witnesses that will be called today to provide their evidence.
Are you happy?
Happy to take my submissions as read.
Okay.
In relation to your question in relation to the case law referenced within the submissions, the case law referenced at the bottom of page 3 of the submissions details the case law referenced and the relevant paragraph that I'm referring to specifically in relation to the application and for the committee to take into consideration.
So can you identify which?
So bottom of page 3.
Talking about the Patel Superette 2000 Limited.
Medical Officer of Health.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. Yep. First line, retail,
Yes.
liquor retail. Okay.
Reference paragraph 46 in relation to that, which you have been provided a copy of.
So what? Okay.
46.
46.
That's fine.
There we are. Yeah. Regarding days and hours of trading.
There is no presumption that an application for licence will be granted or a licence will be renewed.
That's right. Hang on, I've got to find the right.
This one, yes. Clause 86. There's no presumption that.
Right, looking at the wrong one. Okay. Carry on.
So 46 in relation to that case law that's been presented to the committee. In relation to page 4 of the submissions provided, at the bottom of page 4, the reference to case law Patel, Super 2000 Limited and Muir.
Okay, rather than do that, explain to us what you're trying, what you believe the case law is telling us in plain English. So we can read that, but I want to
point
and what you see out of this.
If I can read portions of my submissions that may assist.
Yeah.
So the changes implemented in the 2012 Act were intended to create a robust enforcement regime under which licences will be hard to get and easier to lose. As Clark J observed, Medical Officer of Health, Wellington Region and Lion Liquor Retail Limited, or Lion Liquor, there is no presumption that an application for a licence will be granted or that a licence will be renewed. Laying the foundation there in relation to the presumption with regard to licence application. The submissions also detail the section 1051 of the Act in deciding whether to issue a licence. I through those unless the committee wishes me to read through those sections detailed.
So suitability of the Act, that's a subjective decision, correct? There is no pass fail on a suitability, is there? It's a bell curve of ability, yeah, for want of a better term.
105 details the issuing of the licence having regard to the object and the suitability.
Okay, so what do you consider the definition of suitability means?
If I can continue on through my to assist. So, if you go to page 4. Point 13, if I can read through that to the committee, is the authority explained in Patel Super 2000 Limited. An application can be declined based on a failure to satisfy even just one of Section 5 factors. One or more of the criteria in Section 105 may assume prominence. That is, there will be classes where the matters to which the decision maker is required to have regard are so fundamental or critical that they assume an elevated mantle. As a result, it may be that a single criterion in itself a sufficient reason to decline an application. Indeed, within the requirement to stand back and cross-check the application against the object of the Act is the obligation to decline an application where the object of the Act cannot be achieved by application, even if one or more of the other criteria are satisfied. As Gendel J put it, if the object of the Act cannot be achieved by the application, then it cannot succeed. Detailed in the submissions are the two witnesses providing evidence today, being Inspector Puna, who will provide evidence around her report and suitability, and Inspector Tanani. With regard to under analysis, point 14, where at the bottom of page 4, Niches Enterprises Limited is your reference at 54. Regarding the new on-licence application, the evidence will show that the applicant is not suitable. The standard of suitability for licence application is broadly construed as the authority said in Renisha Enterprises Limited. The real test is whether the character of the applicant has been shown to be such that it is not likely to carry out properly the responsibilities that go with the holding of a licence. Point 15 of the submissions, which is carried on over to page 5 at the bottom, Capital Liquor Limited and Police, references 119 to 120 paragraphs. And point 15 refers to Capital Liquor, as suitability is ultimately about how well the appellant will operate the premises in light of the twin objects in section 4. It's necessary for a DLC to consider the applicant's suitability relative to the premises, including both the nature of those premises and the operation of the businesses and the characteristics of their location. Suitability cannot be assessed in a vacuum. The relevance of those case laws drawing on the suitability and the considerations around that for which the inspectors will provide their evidence.
Is that,
Unless you have any further that you wish me to detail.
yeah, I'll have some questions. I'll just check with my other panel members.
So firstly, thank you. How does the applicant, or how has the applicant neglected their responsibilities?
Inspector Turner will provide that in her brief of evidence with regard to her inspector's report and through photographs and evidence that will be provided through her evidence today.
Wait to ask.
Okay. But I'll hold my questions, but I'll just ask one. The objection is based on the 3 areas of rostering, staff training, and systems within Courtney Spice Limited. Is that the basis of the objection?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you're going to call
It'll be Inspector Turner and also Inspector Denani as well.
Okay, well, we'll get Inspector Turner to join you here because obviously the questions may well apply to both of you. So. Do you wish your evidence to be given on oath, or are you happy to make a statement?
I'll take the oath. Yeah. Please state your full name for the record. I will swear by Almighty God that the evidence you're about to give in the matter before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Hilton, do you wish to question Ms. Turner to evidence, or to her to go through her evidence?
I'm happy for her to go through her evidence and any clarifying questions at the end of that evidence.
Okay.
So I have provided the District Licensing Committee with my inspector's report, which I prepared following the application. upon receipt of the inspector's report, the District Licensing Committee sought to call this hearing. Accordingly, excuse me, I have prepared my brief of evidence. So the committee can take my evidence as read, or I can speak to it, whichever.
We can, the inspector's report we'll take as read. If you wish to highlight any pertinent points in there or offer any further evidence. Yes.
So, excuse me. Part of my role as an alcohol licensing inspector is to assess applications under the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act for their against the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act to see whether they are compliant. On receipt of the application for on license from Courtney Spices Limited, I undertook to inquire into the application as I normally would. I have visited the site twice as part of my inquiries for the application. On both of these inspections, there was no duty manager on site or appointed. I have also witnessed further breaches of conditions of the licence in place at the premises in the form of no low alcohol option being available. The applicants did remedy that following the inspection. However, the concern is that if both of the times that I've been there, both of these breaches have been occurring, how often these breaches taking place when I'm not there? That is my concern. I also have concern with regards to the applicant's system staff and training. The applicant was not able to provide any staff training records. There were numerous correspondence between myself and the applicant throughout the application process where I tried to ascertain accurate staffing records to see how they intended to adequately manage their premises, given the fact that they only had one certified manager that lived in the Wairarapa district. I had concerns around the sharing of duty managers with their premises in Wellington and Hutt City. The applicants were not able to satisfy me to an extent where I would not oppose their application before the expiry of the temporary licence, which was further compounded by the fact that the base licence in place expired on the 11th of September. So the first temporary authority was issued and expired. They were not able to provide the information required in that time frame. A second temporary authority was applied for that was only able to be issued until the expiry of the base licence, being 11 September. They were not able to satisfy me prior to the 11 September date that they had the information, system staff and training required. Therefore, I had no option but to oppose the application and put it to the DLC to decide.
I'll ask the same question to you as well.
Fine.
Around how did the applicant, how has the applicant not fulfilled their responsibilities?
So on the two inspections that I have undertaken, there has been no duty manager on site. That is a condition of their licence to have a duty manager on premises. They have not had low alcohol options on site, which is also a condition of the licence. And the system staff in training, they were unable to provide staffing records or staff training records that were adequate or suitable for my inquiry.
Given that that's some time ago,
Mhm.
how have they now ensured that they are being more responsible?
I have since seen staff training records from the applicants. I have only seen these as part of their submissions for this hearing. The staff training records were dated after the date of my opposition. I believe September 2024, the staff training records were provided. The application was made in March 2024. So there has been a significant period where I have been trying to get this information from the applicants. And I still have not directly received it. I've only seen it through the applicant submissions.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
just a clarification. You talked about the base expiry date being the 11th September and the temporary. So there is no license.
There is currently no licence in place for the premises, and there has not been since 11 September.
Okay, thank you. Now, my other question was, you noted that there were delays in information that you'd requested being provided. Do you think these delays were justifiable?
The delays on my behalf or on behalf of the applicant?
Behalf of that.
I think the applicant was trying to do their best. However, my intention was never for there to be no licence in place for the premises. My intention with all applications that I deal with is to always try and work in with the applicant for their timeframes. It was disappointing to have to repeatedly chase and follow up in numerous emails for information from the applicant. As I said, part of my role is to assess against the criteria of the Act, and I had to ask myself, when is enough of chasing? The application did not have the information at hand. The temporary authorities were running out, time was running out for the applicant, for the licence currency, and a decision needed to be made.
Thank you.
The basis of the objection, as I previously asked, was rostering, staff training and systems, correct?
Mhm.
Since the objection has been raised, the applicant has provided you rostering. Does that satisfy you as to that requirement?
With the information that the applicant has provided in their submissions, if the information they have provided is true and correct, then 3 duty managers would be adequate to cover the hours that they have proposed.
You said true and if true and correct, do you have any belief that that information is not true and correct?
I noted in the applicant's submissions today, they mentioned 3 staff members, Aldrich, Kinjal, and I don't have my notebook in front of me. I think Pratik may have been the 3rd. And yet when going through the roster, Kinjal's name was not featured on the roster. So I have concerns that the lion's share of the duty manager work is in fact being put on one duty manager, being Aldrich, that lives in the Wairarapa. On my visits to the site, as I said, I have never seen a duty manager there. It was concerning to meet with the applicant for his inspection, for his on-licence application, to find that they had no duty manager in place even for their licence inspection.
Now, the question of staff training is the other area of objection. Some records have been provided for staff training. Are they adequate and do they meet the needs under the Act?
There are 2 elements of the submissions that the applicant has provided. The first being the staff training certificates. Yes, these would meet the requirements. These have been issued by ServeWise, and this is a standard training that we would expect to see for hospitality staff. However, the staff training plan that was provided appears to be the Restaurant New Zealand guide to how to formulate a staff training plan, with the Restaurant New Zealand logo removed and Courtney Spice's logo added on top. It's not, in my view, actually a staff training plan. It is a document on how to make a staff training plan.
How long was each temporary license issued for?
The first one was issued for 3 months, which is the standard period of time for a temporary authority. The second temporary authority, I can't tell you the exact number of weeks and days, but it was around 2.5 months. That being because the base license expired on the 11th of September, and therefore you cannot have a temporary license in place past the expiry of the base license.
Thank you. Would you consider that that amount of time is more than adequate for your questions to have been answered, given the historical businesses that the applicant was already in?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, I would say that 3 months is generally adequate for an applicant to have applied for, been through the application process, and have an on license granted in that period of time. It is not uncommon, but it is not the norm to have a second temporary authority applied for, but it is available to an applicant if required.
Okay. You mentioned that you had concerns about sharing managers across the Wellington and Wairarapa. Do you want to expand on what your concerns are and why?
When I received the application, I noted that there was, and after speaking with the applicant at the licence inspection, I noted there was only one duty manager that lived in the Wairarapa. When I queried how they would staff their premises with some of their staff were living over the hill, they said that their staff would be travelling between. The applicant mentioned that they owned a licensed premises in Wellington and in Hutt City. I made inquiry with my counterparts at Hutt City Council and Wellington City Council. Hutt City Council confirmed that the names on the application for on licence for the Petone premises, there were some staff that were duplicated between the two, which gave me further cause for concern to continue my investigations as to whether staff members were working a full day at each premises and having to go to the next one, if travel time was factored in between. If someone is working a full day in Martinborough and then driving over to Hutt City to work an evening in Hutt City, then I had concerns as to whether someone working that length of time would be able to do their job justice, and whether that was also compliant with employment law.
So do you want to expand a little bit about that comment about employment law?
I'm not conversant in employment law. However, I know that the standard for a full-time working is 40 hours a week. And as I said, I had concern with the number of duty managers and whether they would be able to adequately staff both premises, not even considering the Wellington premises also. I had concern whether they would be able to staff those adequately for the licensed hours within a 40-hour work week, which is the standard that we operate off when we're trying to calculate duty manager requirements.
Okay. During the course of your investigation, obviously you've mentioned the businesses over the hill. Have you got any comment as to how that will impact upon this application?
The applicant is the same, Courtney Spices Limited. So my concern is that how they conduct themselves as a company, not just in our district, but in others. So if Courtney Spices Limited as a company is not being compliant in Hutt City or in South Wairarapa, then it gives me concern about their suitability as an applicant.
Do you have any evidence of non-compliance from Petone or Wellington Central?
I understand that our Chief Licensing Inspector, Mia Wilton, is going to call Inspector Deepal Dinani from Hutt City Council. I'm unsure as to whether it's appropriate for me to speak to her evidence.
Okay, we'll hear from her shortly. Ms. Wilton, do you have anything to add to that question?
Yes, the second witness will be provide the committee some evidence in relation to the overall management of the applicant at his second premises as well.
Okay.
Your evidence will detail that.
Yeah. You heard my question to the applicant about changing the hours of operation. Would that satisfy your objections to the rostering issues?
Yes, yep, yes. As long as they have enough duty managers to cover their licensed hours, then yes, I would be satisfied.
Okay. What areas would you consider that the applicant would need to do in regards to staff training and the systems issues of which you have concerns about to meet the requirements of the Act?
With regard to staff training, as I've discussed, the applicant has in their submissions provided staff training records. The ServeWise certificates have been provided for some staff, but not all. All staff appear to have signed the staff training plan, which I spoke to, which appears to be from the Restaurant New Zealand guide for staff training. My concern is that these staff have had this training now. However, they were still advertising, putting a sign out after the 5 days after the license had expired. It could be a day either side of that. Advertising that you could still have a beer with your meals. So my concern is that the staff training perhaps has not sunken in or been adequate, and that staff did not it did not raise concern for the staff to put out a sign advertising alcohol available for sale after the license at the premises had lapsed.
May I ask?
Yeah.
So, was there any evidence to suggest that alcohol was being served?
The applicant has provided sales records for that period, which show that alcohol has not been sold. I do not have any evidence that alcohol was sold in that period. However, my concern is with the perception and also with the staff's knowledge of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act to put that sign out after a license has lapsed, advertising alcohol still for sale is concerning.
Okay. Okay. You can stand down now, but we might call you back after we've heard from your next witness. That's going to be suitable because there might be some questions might come out from your next witness that we might have some more questions for our inspector.
Just in relation, if I may, committee, with regard to bringing into the evidence the reference to the photographs that Inspector Turner was referring to.
Yeah.
I asked some questions to bring those into of the witness to bring into the evidence.
You've got those, we've got that soon.
Those photographs weren't part of the inspector's report, which has been taken as read, so I'd need to bring those in as part of her evidence. I'll refer to in her brief that she's.
So these are the 4 pages of photographs that you. These ones? Okay. So you want to submit these as evidence to the report?
I guess through the witness.
Okay.
If I may just ask some questions of the witness.
Yes, absolutely. She is your witness.
Ms. Turner, in relation to your brief of evidence and your evidence today, you referred to some photographs. If you could please refer to a photograph that you've produced.
I have that in front of me, yes.
And when were those photographs taken?
The photograph, there are some screenshots from social media, which are the first 3 images. These ones were taken in August, September. The photographs that I have taken, there is one on the 15th of August, 2024. There was still a license in place at this time. There was no duty manager on site. The photograph shows alcohol available for sale. It also shows a duty manager's name on the wall. The duty manager was not present. He was down south and had been for the last 2 days.
If the committee could accept that the photographic evidence is.
Yes, could you just go through each photograph and say which ones you want added in as official evidence, and we'll.
Okay, so figure 4, the photo taken by myself on the 5th, 2024, showing alcohol available for sale while no duty manager was on site, showing a duty manager's name on the wall who was not on site and had been on holiday down south for 2 days. Next photograph shows a tree.
Yep. That's exhibit D.
So figure 5, my evidence is a temporary and acting manager's register, which I photographed on site on the 15th of August, 2024. This photo shows that there have been no temporary or acting managers notified in the register since 2021, which is well before the applicant's application.
Entered as exhibit E.
Figure 6 is a photo taken by myself, 15th of August, 2024, a certified manager's register, again showing no date of completion. Sorry, the photograph is blurry, but I can tell you it was again 2021. So the point of these photographs being that the applicant was not keeping any staffing registers that were available on site at the time of inspection.
The photograph is entered as exhibit F.
Figure 7 is the sign that I referred to previously. So this is a photograph taken by myself. The photograph shows a sign saying you can have your world famous Sikh kebabs with tap beer for $25 or a burger of your choice with a tap beer at $30. The photo was taken on the 17th of September 2024. This is 6 days after the alcohol license at the premises lapsed.
Here, that will be noted exhibit G.
That's the last of my photographs.
Okay, there are the social media.
Yeah, the social media posts were purely for context to show that the applicant was still advertising or still featured alcohol in their advertising. However, there was still a license in place at the time that those were posted.
So you don't intend to enter those as exhibits? Okay. Thank you.
Just in relation to the, just confirming with committee chair that appendix 1 being the timeline of application process for Courtney's trading as the Village Cafe, just confirming that has been accepted as part of the inspector's report.
Yes, it's been submitted as documentary evidence.
Turner, if I can direct you to page 7 of your report that has been taken as read, section 8.9. During the compliance visit on the 15th of August, requested to see all staff records for the premises, including the certificate holding managers register, staff training records, and temporary and acting managers register. Other than the applicant's submissions today, have you been provided any other training records from the applicant?
The only training records from the applicant that I have seen are the ones provided as part of the applicant's submissions for the hearing.
And in your evidence, you spoke in relation to the delays or time period for which the application was processed over. Can I refer you to your Appendix 1 timeline as part of your report?
Yes.
I can take you to page, and the committee to page 2, appendix.
Yes.
The entry on the 10th of the 4th, 24. That was the date you've detailed via email contact in relation to applications for manager certificates and to provide a roster and the details of that. And just for the purpose of the committee, just going through the point 29th of the 4th on page 4.
No, the 5th.
Sorry, my apologies, page 3, 29th of the 4th.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The bottom entry, another email seeking clarification with regard to Pratik working at the Village Cafe.
Yes. Yep. So the timeline provided shows a summary of the correspondence between myself and the applicant where I attempted to obtain the staff training and duty manager records from the applicant. So on the, well, on page 1, it shows I conducted my inspection on the 26th of March, at which point there was no duty manager on site and no low alcohol on site. I then followed up with the applicant requesting that Aldrich applies for his manager's certificate before its renewal because it was due to expire, requesting copies of Pratik's manager's certificate, requesting the applicant respond to our planning team regarding their emails for the planning certificate, asking for a roster for the premises showing duty managers the 2nd of April. That was provided on the 8th of April, 10th of April, so 8 days later. They also they confirmed that they would apply for the manager's supplied copy of Pratik's certificate.
Okay. Just in relation to the evidence that you provided in relation to the visit where the duty manager wasn't on site, can I just take you and refer you to the applicant's submissions and evidence on page 3 of that document?
So page 3 of
Page 3, the heading of Courtney Spices Limited, dated 18th of the 9th, the top of the page. The first paragraph is headed suitability for running. Just give us a moment to find that page. Under the heading of breaches, the response provided by the applicant that Pratik was on his way to the cafe and was running late and clearly instructed not to sell alcohol product. Sale report attached. During your visit on that day, was there anything provided to you in relation to instructions to staff that had been provided by the manager who was running late?
The staff member that I spoke to did not make any reference to the fact that they had been advised not to sell alcohol. They seemed confused by my visit.
Thank you. And contained within the evidence within that document, if I can refer you to the pages after photographs headed Courtney Spices Limited Staff Training Plan. These can no page number on it. If I could show the committee just as a reference. Mr. If you can, if you view that document, you mentioned earlier that this is a guide. On that page, it refers to as a tool to assist members to implement a staff training plan. We outlined some of the considerations when formulating one of your premises. Feel free to update and use this guide as a starting point for your training plan. In your role and considerations for applications, staff training as a consideration. In that document, is there evidence of training or sufficient training that has been provided to each of the staff members that have signed those documents?
So other than the fact that the staff member's name is printed on the front page and they've initialed each page, these documents are not dated. So I cannot be sure when they were completed. Likewise, there is, as I mentioned, this appears to be a guide. It's not the applicant's actual staff training plan as far as I can ascertain. So there is nothing in here that shows anything other than the fact that they have read this document. That is what I'm assuming by them signing it.
Thank you. No further questions of my witness at this stage, Chair.
Could I just tease that last question out? This is a staff training for Village Cafe and Bar.
Yes.
During your investigation, given that there are other premises by the applicant, did you see any staff training plans for the other
No.
things that would give an indication that there was staff training plans?
No.
Yes, that's all the questions we have at this stage. So, do you want to call your next witness?
Yes, if I could call Inspector Denani, please. She's be on AVL.
Not in. She hasn't been asked to be admitted. I need to get her.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute adjournment while we find our next witness. Okay, so take a breather. Thank you, Corey. I will reconvene the meeting at 10:45 hours.
Thank you. The witness could be offered as swearing on oath or affirmation.
Take an oath or affirmation, or just make a statement.
Affirmation, please.
Name for the full record.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Please
Please.
state your full name for the record.
Deepal Dhanani.
Do you solemnly, sincerely and truthfully declare and affirm that the evidence you are about to give touching the matters before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And thank you. Before Ms. Wilkins starts, thank you for making yourself available for this hearing.
Thank you.
Alistair Plummer, I'm the chair of South Wairarapa District Licensing. Thank you.
If I may ask questions of witness, thank you. Can you hear me, Inspector?
Yes, I can.
Can you just please state your full name and role?
My full name is Deepal Dhanani, and I am one of the licensing inspectors at the Hutt City Council.
And how long have you been in that role?
For 6 years.
And in that role, what are your responsibilities?
My responsibilities as an inspector is to inquire into and report on different alcohol applications, and I also carry out compliance checks and take part in control purchase operations to assist police.
And in that role, what act or legislation are you acting under?
Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012.
Your evidence today in relation to the applicant Courtney Spices Limited, can you tell us what your involvement with that company is?
So at Lower Hutt, I was assigned one of the application, which is Courtney Spices Limited, to trade as Rajdhani Indian restaurant, and I was assigned that application to report on. So as part of my inquiry, I had vetted the application. I had carried out site visit, and I was also in touch with other licensing inspectors, that is from South Wairarapa, Hazel Turner, and Claire from Wellington, and police, because Courtney Spices Limited had 3 premises under the same company. And I have also carried out a compliance check once they had been issued a license.
Thank you. You referred to conducting a compliance check. Can you provide details of that check and what date that was?
I carried out the compliance check on Rajdhani Indian Restaurant on 9th of September 24. Yeah, so when I went to the premises, it was open for the business. I was greeted by their front of house staff, and I identified myself and showed my warrant and suggested that I am here to do the compliance visit. And there is one form that we follow, and I carried out the compliance check based on that check sheet.
And during that visit, was there a duty manager on site?
No, so the duty manager name was Pratik Kumar Patel, and when I asked the front of house staff where Pratik is, she had mentioned that he has gone out. So my findings were that the duty manager was not on the site. The trading hours were not displayed. no low alcohol option was available. It was on the menu, but there was no low alcohol option in the bar. And in terms of records requirement, managers register, staff training records, and incident book were not available for me to see.
And as a result of your compliance check, did you follow up with the licensee?
Yes, so I had given my contact details to that front of house. Pratik had called me, I think, after 1 hour of my visit, and then we had set up a time to meet on the same day. So both the licensee Vivek Bhatt and Pratik Kumar came to the council, and we discussed our findings.
And as a result of that discussion, what was that? How did that meeting take place?
So the licenses were apologetic that this had happened. Pratik Kumar had told me the reason why he was out. So he was actually out to buy the low alcohol options that they had run out. He showed me a receipt from Gilmore's, which matched the date and time of my site visit at the premises, and there was low alcohol option in that which he had bought in that time. They had also brought their managers register, staff training records, and incident book. And I I looked at them. The managers register was okay. For staff training records, they needed to add some more details. And they didn't have any incident, so there was no incident recorded, but they had the template to record one if needed. And
Okay.
also, because those findings are infringible under the Act, I had notified them that I will ask the Police Infringement Bureau to issue an infringement notice.
And to your knowledge, was an infringement notice issued?
Yes, it has been issued, and I think it should have been issued 2 weeks before.
And in relation, you said in relation to the staff training needed more detail. Can you tell us more in relation to that?
They needed to add, so they had training records for the staff, but they didn't have the training record they didn't mention the training for the licensee, so they needed to add that. And I had sent a follow-up email to them about all this findings, to which they have come back to me. They have replied, and one of that thing was they had to fill out notice of management change, so officially appointing all the managers, which they have now completed as well.
Thank you. You mentioned that Courtney's Spices Limit for Rajani Indian restaurant was issued a non-license. You have provided a copy of that on license. If I can ask that be provided as evidence through the witness.
So in my brief of evidence, that copy of on license is provided with that.
Will be entered as Exhibit H.
Inspector, do you have a copy of that license in front of you?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions,
Thank you.
Chair. On to the committee if you have any questions.
Do you have any?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. One is could you tell me how many times you've interacted with the applicants in the time that you've been an inspector?
They lodged the application probably in March. So since then, I have had phone correspondence and few email correspondences, and they had been issued the license in June. So my correspondence was from March till June, and then in September when I did my compliance visit.
And as in your capacity as an inspector, would you expect to see, given that they've been in business, the applicants have been in business for a while, you'd expect to see more appropriate training plans, those kind of things in place?
Yes. Yeah. I would also expect that from a new business as well, because as part of the reporting process, when we first meet them, we give them guidance on the staff training, and how to implement those training and have the records. So we generally expect that for both new and old businesses.
Thank you. Okay. One of the issues of non-compliance was the staff training records, and I'm interested to know, when the applicant applied, did you see evidence of staff training plans?
Yes, so staff training plan was provided as part of the application.
Have you spoken, excuse me, have you spoken to our inspector over here about the quality of the staff training plans that you saw compared to what she has seen in the application here?
No, we with the South Wairarapa inspector, we had mostly talked about the duty managers and their rosters.
Were the staff training plans that you saw, were they individual for each employee?
No, it was general. But the records that I saw on the register, they had mentioned staff training record for each staff, but only the licensee were not included in that list.
Okay, thank you. Have all the issues that you raised of your visit on the 9th of September, have they now been complied with?
Yes.
Are you aware of any other non-compliance issues during the terms of their licenses? Because obviously this was a license renewal.
No, this was new license, not a renewal license.
Sorry, I meant with their other business in Wellington Central. Because obviously this is now the third, excuse me, they're applying now for their third business, having sold a business in the intervening period. So this will be their third application for a business license. Are you aware of any other non-compliances with any of the other licenses when you did your inspection?
No.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we've got. Thank you very much for attending. That's all the questions we've got. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, have you got any final questions for Sean? Okay, thanks, Ms. Fulton. You are now excused.
Thank you, Committee.
What I'll do now, So we've heard all the evidence that's to be presented. You've obviously heard. How about we have an adjournment, give you some time, consider what you've heard before you come back with your right of reply. How much time do you think you want?
20 minutes.
Right.
20 minutes.
Okay. Right. We'll adjourn for half an hour. So we'll reconvene at 11, at which stage you can do your right of reply. Okay.